We will find U.S. Senator from the great state of Wisconsin, Ron Johnson. Senator, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
We're doing very well. How is everything going this morning?
Oh, just peachy.
Is the celebratory atmosphere over this Iranian deal still reigning supreme in Washington?
I would call it more a dark cloud.
Would too.
Yeah, no, this is not good. I mean, you take a look at this deal from just about any angle, and Iran, just knocked it out of the park. I mean, they won this negotiation hands down, and it's not good for the security of the world. I mean, that's the bottom line here. President Obama says, it's going to be completely verifiable, but you take a look at the inspection regime, and it's a 6-step process. I mean, first you have to request an inspection, and if they have an objection, they get to come up with an alternate means of supplying the information you want. If that doesn't work, then it goes to some other council, and then it goes on to some ministerial level, and then it eventually gets up to the UN Security Council. So this could be a multi-month process before we finally end up having to impose more sanctions, I guess. And of course, that's going to be impossible to do. So this does not prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Maybe delays it. It doesn't prevent it. But here's the real problem. We're going to almost immediately interject about $140 billion into the Iranian economy. What do you think they'll use that for?
Is it unreasonable to think that perhaps part of this deal should have included getting some hostages returned to us?
Absolutely. You can tell how President Obama was pretty prickly when he was asked that question. I think he knows at bare minimum, anybody, when you're giving the stowaway this way, you should have at least gotten a few Americans released from Iranian jails in return. Was that just an oversight on the part of this administration? He should have been embarrassed about that. It's outrageous that wasn't part of this awful deal.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson with us from the state of Wisconsin. It's Ronnie and Scott on WROK. You asked what they're going to use that money on, Senator, and terrorism. I mean, they're the largest state sponsor of terror in the world. We're going to allow them $100 billion at least of their own money. We're going to allow them to sell oil on the open market now. What will a strong Iranian economy mean over the next decade for the Middle East and for the rest of the world?
They will continue to destabilize the region. They'll continue to support Hezbollah in Lebanon and stabilize that country, and of course they're stabilizing Syria and Hamas in Gaza to stabilize that region. They'll continue to destabilize Iraq and actually gain greater and greater influence on Iraq. Stabilize Yemen, just across the board. I mean, they represent a threat to the region. We have just made them a much more powerful regional power within the Middle East. And for a regime like Iran that basically has this apocalyptic view of the world, that's not a good thing.
Is there anything you and your colleagues can do to slow it up, or even better, throw up a big enough speed bump that we can revisit this and change things?
Well, that would require Democrats joining us in voting for a disapproval and then voting to override President Obama's announced veto of that disapproval if it were to occur. Personally, based on the fawning press, based on comments from a number of Democrat senators that are saying this is a historic deal, to give us our best chance for peace. I like David Ignatius's comment from the New York Times. He said this is a cosmic bet. Yeah, I mean, this is, I don't know about you guys, but in my universe, I don't think Iran's a power to be trusted. I don't think they're going to modify their behavior, particularly when you're going to lift the arms embargo and the embargo against ballistic missile technology, not based on change in behavior, but just based on the passage of time.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson with us from Wisconsin. Ronnie and Scott on WROK. Senator, you need to find 67 votes to override a presidential veto. The president already said he will veto any disapproval coming from the House and the Senate. Given the language used and the way this deal is being described, you said it's a dark cloud. Many people have said it's extremely dangerous, destabilize the region, could lead to a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. You guys are supposed to be on recess August 10th through September 7th. Is there any talk or discussion about canceling that recess to work as hard as possible to try to convince 67 senators to override the president's veto?
Well, personally, I think probably the best way to get those 67 senators to override the veto would be to go back to our districts and lay out the facts. we will, I think, in a pretty organized and thoughtful process. We're going to be holding hearings. I mean, we'll bring these people up and we'll ask them the hard questions. When before they said that they were going to insist on anytime, anywhere inspections, and then I just heard, I think it was Ben Rhodes on TV.
Yes.
We saw the, I saw the comment. He said, back then they were going to insist on anytime, anywhere inspections, and then I think last night he's saying anytime, anywhere inspections was never contemplated being part of the deal. So there are going to be all kinds of those types of discrepancies. We'll call it that. In what they said before this deal and what they're saying afterwards. And again, we just have to point out how dangerous this deal is. So I think probably the best thing, if we want to try and prevent this deal from moving forward, would be to go back to our states and our districts and convey to the American public really how bad this is. But guys, don't hold your breath, because what President Obama has basically done, even though he signed the bill to give Congress and the American people, through their representatives, input into this process in terms of whether this should be, agreed to, approved as a good deal for America, he's circumventing that process by running to the UN Security Council. They'll pass a resolution before Congress ever has a chance to weigh in.
And
he's just blowing us off, basically.
And you'll have Russia and China running interference for them at the same time as well.
Yeah, no, it'll pass the UN Security Council, because you've got all the P5+1 powers. That is the powers with the veto capability of the Security Council. They're all going to vote for it. So the UN Security Council will basically remove all the past resolutions that sanctioned Iran. By the way, those sanctions were working. And this is what's really grating.
Right.
Is President Obama throws out this false choice, like, well, it's either this deal or war. No, we could have had a much better deal had he actually strengthened the sanctions. There was support in Congress to ratchet up those sanctions. Remember, President Obama thanked everybody for the sanctions. He was opposed to them. Mm-hmm. Not only was he opposed to them, even though he reluctantly ended up going along with them, he undermined them from the get-go. He always granted waivers, for example, for Japan to sell oil to or buy oil from Iran. There are all kinds of different waivers which which weaken the sanctions pretty much from the get-go as well. Had we ratcheted up sanctions, I think we could have brought Iran to the negotiating table in far greater faith. We could have got a far better deal. Bottom line, never ask President Obama to negotiate anything for you.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin. It's Riley and Scott on WROK. Want to hit a couple of other topics before we let you go. One, the OPM hack, the Office of Personnel Management. Every time we get more details, it's larger, it's more serious. Fingerprints stolen, all information about 20 million or so Americans. Is this the largest data breach in our history? How dangerous might this be?
This was an intelligence gathering coup for China. I mean, this is way beyond a data breach. This has serious national security implications. This is kind of information that a foreign power can use to blackmail high government officials. And again, so incredibly dangerous. It doesn't appear to be the type of breach that the personal information is going to be used for identity theft, although it could be. It could be sold, and we're seeing that across the board. I actually give the president great deference in terms of being able to fill up his administration. I vote to confirm most of his nominees for positions. Director Archuleta was one. I didn't think she was qualified for the post. I voted against her confirmation, and I certainly, in our hearing, actually asked the Inspector General of OPM whether he thought, and Director Archuleta was at the table, said, do you think the current management team of OPM is up to the task of addressing this, their IT security? Simple answer was no. And I think that was pretty devastating. I appreciate the fact that Director Archuleta resigned. I think Beth Colbert is a very competent individual. There's some pretty good people in the administration, in IT. This president has to make it a top priority. We've got to pass the information sharing bill. There's a bunch of things we need to do. The good thing out of this is this is such a highly publicized breach, such a failure on the part of this administration. Maybe they'll start taking IT security seriously.
Well, and the thing is, this administration never fires anybody for anything, and yet all of a sudden we get a resignation thrown on the table here, which kind of, to those of us who watch, indicates how bad this really is. Yeah, that does indicate something. We did, a little bit aside, with enough public pressure. My subcommittee investigated the Inspector General of Department of Homeland Security, and right before we held a hearing on it, he moved on.
We put a lot of pressure on the Inspector General for the VA after all of these revelations that he basically hid in these inspection reports that he never made public. He just resigned. So, I mean, from my standpoint, one of the roles of Congress is this oversight. As Chairman of Homeland Security, Government Affairs, I'm providing that oversight, and we are forcing some of these administration officials to resign and getting better people put in their place.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson with us from Wisconsin. Riley and Scott on WROK. You're the chair of the Homeland Security Committee, as you mentioned. I know some discussion about sanctuary cities and this killing in San Francisco. Catherine Steinle, you were asking last week if it made any sense that this five-time deportee who returned felon was allowed to go free. There's talk, there's a Vitter amendment. I know others have discussed, too, some legislation to block federal funds for any sanctuary cities across the U.S. How is this allowed, and will it be allowed to continue that cities just disregard immigration laws?
It certainly should not be allowed. Actually, I authored a piece of legislation in reaction to President Obama's executive amnesty. Part of it was ending sanctuary cities. So there are a number of proposals. I'm working with Judiciary Chair Chuck Grassley and the sub-chair of the Immigration Subcommittee, Jeff Sessions, trying to figure out what is the best way of approaching this. I know the Judiciary Committee, it's their jurisdiction, changing this law. They're going to be holding a hearing next Tuesday with some of these victims, and also then officials of DHS and the administration, hold them to account. I think that would be the first step. But there are a number of proposals out there to end sanctuary cities by probably withholding funding from those cities in different types of federal government grant programs with cities that are just basically violating, from my standpoint, violating federal law. So now it makes no sense to me. It certainly makes no sense to the American public. And here's one of the things I'm trying to accomplish, too, in the committee. President Obama says he's not going to sign any kind of immigration reform unless it's comprehensive. Well, we're not going to get comprehensive reform. Let's take a look at these individual problems, and let's take a step-by-step approach. And not just 2 or 3 steps. I mean, we could dozens of little bills that address specific problems, like ending sanctuary cities. This would be a good first step. Let's at least fix that problem. We're trying to do the same thing through my committee. Let's start addressing the unsecured border we have, and let's start ending some of the incentives for illegal immigration. I mean, we have so many things in our laws that actually incentivize people to come to this country. Let's eliminate or at least drastically reduce those incentives. Of course, sanctuary cities is one of them. So this guy, a convicted felon, 7 times, came back in this country legally, was deported 5 times. He headed right to San Francisco because he was home free.
Yep.
That's an incentive for illegal immigration. We have to end those incentives, and we've got to pressure the administration to work with us to do what is right to help secure our border, keep America safe on a step-by-step basis.
Senator, would you have called the Steinle family?
Absolutely. When you take a look at the individuals that President Obama does call versus the people he doesn't, it really speaks volumes.
Yeah. Senator Ron Johnson, as we let you go, we see on your Facebook page from...
That's a fine-looking cow.
Yeah, from Monday, the Adventures in Dairyland Instagram contest winner, a wonderful picture of an adorable Wisconsin cow. So, once again, no Illinois winners, I
Well,
suppose?
again, it's tough for you guys down there. I mean, you go through Wisconsin, Dairyland, and you see so many beautiful examples, and it just wasn't a fair competition. Sorry. It was an open competition. It just wasn't fair.
Senator, as always, thanks for taking time
If we
for
have
us.
some sort of Adventures in Corruption contest, we are going to win
we're
that.
going to win that one hands down. Senator, thanks for your time. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Bye.